Good morning. How's everybody on this beautiful Colorado day? Our weather predictor last night was both right on and not even close, so I don't know what to think about it. We've had quite a bit of discussion about the weather and have decided that next year we're going to go ahead and move the symposium to late May and see how that works for everybody. Actually, that's an accurate statement. A lot of you may be aware of it, but I'm finding that a lot of you are finding this out as news. Next year we will move into late May. The symposium will be the 19th through the 22nd of May. And the reason for that is a continuing investment in the property by the new owner, Phil Anschutz. I don't know if many of you noticed the steam locomotive out in front of the summit that just sort of magically appeared one day. Phil has got a tremendous affinity for the Western heritage of Colorado, and you probably noticed the incredible artwork that's been placed around the property. I know one or two of you may have managed to get down to the new Golden Bee and seen the work going on there. So when we leave here this week, the hotel will begin work on a renovation of the west part of the hotel. And they will be expanding those rooms, adding some rooms, renovating the restaurant and doing a totally new design concept on the restaurant. It's going to be just incredible. But they can't get it done in 12 months. They need 13. So we will be in May next year. So note that on your calendars. And for all of you who are weather challenged, we should have better odds of great weather for the duration. We've already been talking with our colleagues from DLR and the German contingent about the possibility of a beer tent next year, just because the weather will be conducive. But thank you for being here. Thank you for braving the elements. Those of you who come from across town or up north, good on you for getting here through the snow. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce our kickoff speaker, Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger. I first got a chance to meet the congressman back in '08 when the Democratic National Convention was in Denver, and the foundation, along with some of you, hosted events at both of the nominating conventions that year. And it has just been a privilege and an honor to work with the congressman and his team ever since. I think everybody recognizes the tremendous influence and work that Dutch has and does in the intelligence sector. He's serving his 6th term in the U.S. House, representing Maryland's 2nd District, which includes Baltimore. He's the first Democratic freshman to be appointed to the House Select Committee on Intelligence and was named ranking member of the Intelligence Committee in 2011. He has served on Appropriations, Government Reform, and on the House Armed Services Committee. I think one of the things that Dutch doesn't get enough credit for is all the work he has done in ITAR reform and many other issues surrounding space and space infrastructure in the space industry. He is a great friend to the space community, and we're so delighted to welcome him back to the National Space Symposium. Please welcome Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger.
Well, good morning. You know, prayers do work. I have a 10:45 flight, and I didn't think I was going to make it, but we might have a shot right now. But you know, the weather forecasters love to scare you, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm glad so far I don't see too much snow out there, but I think there is a lot of wind. First, Elliot, thank you for the introduction. I think it's so important for all of us to come here every year and to meet and to network. It makes such a difference. I know personally myself, the people that I meet here, I learn as much at an event like this as I do back in Washington, and we have briefings and that type of thing. You know, a lot of what we do, the networking, we can solve problems here at this event, and it happens all the time. And I know for a lot of you, it was a lot tougher to get here this year, and hopefully that'll be better next year, and it does make a difference. Well, look, I do want to say you in the space industry are America's greatest minds, key to our long-term growth, innovation, and prosperity. Space is so important in what we do in life, and we have to make sure that we let people know how space affects their everyday life. If we want to continue to move forward, if we want members of Congress that don't know a lot about space, unfortunately, to fund space, we have to together let people know how important it is. I do want to acknowledge the Space Foundation for doing this every year. You do a great job. It's professional. And if I can do anything to help, which I hope just by being here makes a difference, we're going to do whatever we can in our role to back you up. Also, I want to acknowledge Marty Fega, who's the board chairman, and the board, very active board, coming together, bringing us together. And I see General Shelton, thank you for being here. And I think I'm warming them up for you next. You're coming up, so I'll try to do the best I can. Who here has grandkids? Raise your hand. You know, you find that grandkids are one of the best things that ever happens to you in life. But they are interesting sometimes. You love them. And my grandkids laugh at me for carrying this old-fashioned flip phone. Can you see it? Old-fashioned flip phone. You can't pull up Google on the flip phone, or you can't talk to anyone in the world at any time from the palm of your hand. But, you know, this old-fashioned flip phone still does a lot, and it makes a difference. I do have a BlackBerry, by the way, so I'm not totally out of touch, and it does get email and allows me to check sports scores. Now, remember those bricks, those cell phones, those phones that used to be the old line cell phones? I think we have a picture of it up there, but I'm not sure. Remember before that, when it wasn't your phone, it was the phone with a cord attached to a wall in the kitchen. Now, thankfully, I don't see as many people, or not many people here old enough to remember rotary phones and the stress of maintaining friendships with those whose phone numbers had too many zeros and nines. And by the way, if you remember those phones, 60 is the new 40, but you got to get to 60 for that to come in. Now, I have to laugh at my grandkids when I see them getting frustrated on how long it takes to pull up a web page on their iPhones. And by the way, and are very frustrated about 4 or 5 seconds it might take. Can you believe we live in a country which gets frustrated by a device you hold in your hand, which can get you any piece of information from anywhere in the world in 4 to 5 seconds? But here's the thing. Impatience really is not bad. It reflects our desire to constantly improve and innovate. It's our impatience that led President Kennedy to set the goal of 10 years for manned spaceflight. And, you know, we achieved it. I see in you that very same impatience. You are the modern-day Magellans, Newtons, Bells, Einsteins, and Armstrongs. You in the space industry want to go further, go faster, and explore deeper. You're never satisfied, and you shouldn't be. You're the ones who make my flip phone old-fashioned a month after it comes out. So it is important for us in government to do everything we can to support you. But the truth is, for the longest time, some in government haven't been doing everything they can. Constellation, the plan to return astronauts to the moon by 2020, was canceled, jeopardizing $11.5 billion in investment and the jobs of many of our best scientists and the sense of wonder that reinvigorates and inspires. Look, when I was growing up, I could almost name every astronaut. How many children today can name even one astronaut? Compare that with how many children today can name dozens of NFL quarterbacks. Now that has to change. And by the way, so long as every kid remembers the name of my Super Bowl champion Ravens quarterback, Joe Flacco. That's a Ravens fan. Now we need heroes in math, science, engineering, and space to inspire our kids to become like you. We have to continue moving forward with the next generation. We have to train the next generation. Now, we need them to pick up the torch. We need to have them invest in learning math, science, engineering. We need to invest in STEM education, extremely important. We also need to reinvigorate our commercial space industry for the sake of our present. But some in government are doing just the opposite. They are making further cuts. And when we cut back our efforts, we decrease our popular understanding, our common sense of wonder, and our appreciation of our reliance on space technology and platforms. When we do all that, it becomes very easy to keep cutting. The vicious cycle continues. Look at sequestration. People forget when they talk about sequestration, it was designed to be bad. The across-the-board cuts were designed to be so ill-advised and so painful that their mere possibility was to force both sides to come together on a broader budget deal. That was the threat, but now it's a reality. Now we're facing deep and indiscriminate cuts with no regard to priority or good sense. These cuts negatively impact our important social programs and our children's education, the very education we need to remain competitive and strong in the 21st century. Sequestration cuts investments in STEM, the very fields that are crucial for innovation and economic growth, and the very fields that the Russians and Chinese are heavily investing in so they can catch up with us. Sequestration also sacrifices our national security. As the senior most Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, charged with overseeing our intelligence agencies like NSA, CIA, NRO, NGA, I work very closely with the majority to make sure that these agencies have the resources they need to do the job. We see how the intelligence community is being hit particularly hard by sequestration. Every year since Chairman Rogers and I committed to work in a bipartisan manner, we have passed our Intelligence Authorization Act, and we weren't able to do that for almost 7 years before Chairman Rogers and I made a commitment to work together. We do this to ensure we know exactly what these agencies are doing so we can check up on behalf of American people. We don't just give the intelligence agencies a large pot of money for them to spend it, however we oversee it. But the flip side is that under sequestration, each of those narrowly defined programs get the same cut. It doesn't matter what the priority of the program is, or the timeliness, or even the overall cost. Across the board, that is not the way you budget. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Take space programs. It's no secret that our intelligence community relies on satellites, but to indiscriminately cut a space program by even 9% can force a decision to turn off a well-performing satellite long before its useful life is complete. You know that if it costs $1.5 billion to buy a satellite and $15 million a year to operate and maintain it, then cutting into those yearly costs effectively means you cannot operate or maintain the platform. A 9% reduction could lead to a 100% loss of capability. To borrow an old phrase, we are being penny wise but pound foolish. We're abandoning the car on the side of the highway so we don't have to pay for gas. Now some of your insiders may be wondering about reprogramming funds, that is, working with Congress to transfer funds from one account to another. I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds here, but reprogramming can alleviate the problem, but it cannot solve it. There is a limit on the amount of funds that may be programmed during each fiscal year. With all the reprogramming requests that would be necessary to mitigate the damages of sequestration, we could far exceed our limit. Now, let me be clear. If we fail to invest in space, we do it at our own peril. We're dependent on satellites in almost every facet of our lives. Our phones don't just automatically update their clocks via satellite, but our power grids and our financial sectors all rely on speed-of-light communications that satellites provide. We're only getting more dependent on the latest technologies that space provides, like GPS. That dependence makes us vulnerable. The way to counteract that is to unleash the power of our best and brightest, you here today. We need to improve the security of all of our systems and find better, faster, and more importantly, cheaper ways to innovate. In the last Intelligence Authorization Act, we included a requirement that commercial industry systems must be used in our government systems. When they aren't, we want to know why. We also relaxed ITAR restrictions, which were killing American businesses. Before current export restrictions went into place in 1998, the U.S. held 73% of the world market for commercial satellites. Today, it's less than 1/3 as foreign competitors exploit our inability to export simple, old, and widely available technology. But we need to do more. The government should never compete with the private sector, and instead it should invest in these technologies, which are too expensive and which currently have no market. We need to further unleash the power of the private sector, and we need to dare to take the next step. I want to see people back in space on U.S. commercial spaceships, and I want to see more advanced robotic commercial exploration. History shows us that innovation is sparked from private companies like Apple and SpaceX, as much, if not more, than by government investments. How many in this audience thought SpaceX would have made 3 supply trips to the International Space Station by 2013? I did. Why should we pay the Russians for a lift when we have the best and brightest right here, as well as the opportunity to invest in our own space industry? Don't get me wrong, I'm not against globalization. I believe that global competition and cooperation makes us all better. But we should never purposely cut off an industry in which we have a competitive advantage so that we can rely on the older technologies of another country. We need to lower the cost of launch and bring launch back to the U.S. I know some of you here today will create a reusable launch system, dramatically bringing down these costs. I know you're close, and I know you will achieve that goal. Ultimately, Americans, explorers, inventors, and innovators. Uh-oh. Now, where did that one come from? Maybe I'm going to take off soon. I don't know. All right. We are an impatient country who gets frustrated with the 4 to 5 seconds it sometimes takes for web pages to load on our phones. We are a nation that bristles at stagnation and yearns for innovation. President Kennedy said, quote, "The United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them. This country was conquered by those who moved forward, and so will space. We have, and we will again, thanks to you. And yes, I'm getting a new smartphone, so please give me a year, maybe even a few months before you call that old-fashioned." Thank you for having me here today. Unfortunately, I assume, I'm not sure if you want me to take questions, but I do have to catch a plane, so I probably have to move. Are there any questions you would like me to answer? If not, I'll go catch my plane. Okay, thank you for being here. Have a great week. I'm really honored to be here. Old-fashioned, I'm not supposed to be drinking. Whew. Okay, thank you. Take care.